back to health. This week we're in the quartier known as Pigalle, the heart of Paris's red light district and home to all that is X-rated, be it peep shows, sex shops or strip clubs, they're all here. Sexual expression is a natural part of a well-rounded life. There's nothing inherently unhealthy about it. But when does too much sex become a bad thing? In this week's show, we're exploring the consequences of excessive sexual behaviour and why it poses a risk to our health. Coming up, when selling sex is your profession. In France, there's moves to make prostitution illegal, but it's unlikely to change the health risks that thousands of sex workers face each day. Next, we head to one of Europe's leading centres for compulsive sexual behaviour. It's founded by a recovering sex addict who now helps several hundred men and women each year. And finally, can men take more responsibility in matters of contraception? We visit India, where researchers have developed a new birth control method that disables sperm for up to a decade. At the beginning of June, these streets in Pigalle were the site of protests demanding more rights for prostitutes. Right now, French MPs are debating whether to make it illegal to pay for sex. The idea is to criminalise the clients and protect the large number of prostitutes who are victims of trafficking and slavery. But for those working the streets, these new rules may only make an already risky job more dangerous.
Fighting for the right to have sex and be paid for it. Here in Pigalle, prostitutes of both genders staged a demonstration denouncing a move which threatens clients of sex workers with up to 6 months in jail. They say the profession will still exist, only underground, where conditions are far more precarious. Sabrina was among the protesters. She's been a prostitute for the past 26 years. Her workplace, the world-renowned Champs-Élysées.
The law will further complicate our job. It's going to force prostitution to be hidden, and therefore girls won't be treated for disease. And if they can't be treated, they're going to pass on HIV and STDs.
Today, the mother of two has no place to call home. Her children live with their father. This afternoon, she's come to see Father Iva. The priest opens his door to prostitutes, transvestites and young people exposed to violence. Here Sabrina talks freely about the health risks already evident in her job, namely men not wanting to use protection.
Now it's not about price. Instead, the men ask, with or without protection. I want to hit them. But there are some girls who are willing to do anything, absolutely whatever. They agree to oral sex without protection.
80% of France's sex workers are believed to be foreigners, many of them working against their will. That's part of the reason why forensic scientist Judith Trincart backs the proposed law. She says punishing the customers is the best way to stamp out the trade, a trade that causes serious physical and mental health problems.
20% of Vietnam veterans displayed post-traumatic stress disorder. By contrast, in prostitutes, the rate of PTSD is 70% because of the violence against them.
If introduced, France will join only a handful of European countries where clients of sex workers face prison. Sweden was first in 1999, followed by Norway and Iceland.
Sexual addiction is once again in the headlines, rightly or wrongly, because of a raft of high-profile personalities who have been engulfed in a scandal. Today we're in the Museum of Eroticism in Paris, which, to be fair, has been quite a learning experience. But how many of us actually understand what it means to be addicted to sex? This next report explores what is ultimately an unhealthy obsession.
It was first diagnosed in the US. It's now also considered an illness in Europe. In Stockholm, a team of therapists welcome patients who suffer from severe intimacy disorders like compulsive masturbation or exhibitionism.
We have 2 smaller group rooms and 1 large group room.
Eric Sundby co-founded the clinic. He's a psychologist and specialises in sexual addiction, and he knows what it's like. He himself used to be a sex addict.
At the most escalation, then I could masturbate from between 30 to 40 times a day. I was masturbating very often. I've masturbated so much that I've had physical damage to my penis, yes. It's not a pleasure at all. It's about survival. It's about surviving the trauma.
Eric's father molested him repeatedly when he was a kid. Following months of therapy, Eric Sundby eventually managed to beat his addiction. He attended a training course in the US before opening the clinic 8 years ago. Some scientists believe the disorder is linked to brain chemicals. During sex, the brain produces dopamine, known as the pleasure molecule. But in the brain of a sex addict, dopamine bypasses the control zone and overstimulates the reward zone. In order to re-experience the euphoria, addicts intensify their sexual activity. On average, 5% of the population suffers from sexual addiction, and 1 out of 5 is a woman. Carmen is a patient at the clinic. At 20, she's had sexual experiences with dozens of men.
The problem wasn't really how many, it's more why. I had sex with men I didn't like. I had sex when I didn't feel like having sex. I thought I had to. Because otherwise they wouldn't like me. I didn't get serious about recovering until I almost got raped.
Like her, some 250 men and women attend group sessions each week at the clinic. Most will need close to 1.5 years to overcome their addiction.
At the other end of the spectrum is a healthy sex life, something the Indians understood well when they wrote the Kama Sutra. Now, researchers in India are on the brink of another sexual breakthrough. They've developed a new form of male contraception that's both long-lasting and reversible.
Please come in.
These men will be the first to test a revolutionary new male contraceptive. They're amongst the 250 volunteers who've been chosen for the final phase of clinical testing. If all goes well, this contraceptive technique could be commercially available around the world in less than a year. It's called reversible inhibition of sperm under guidance, but it's more commonly known by its acronym, RISUG.
I chose this method because I already have 2 girls and I don't want any other children for the moment. But if I change my mind one day, I'll still be able to have another baby.
The best thing about this contraceptive is that it's reversible. It's much better than other methods like vasectomy or tubal ligation.
A RISUG injection takes 15 minutes to administer. A solution charged with positive ions is introduced into the testicles. When it comes into contact with negatively charged sperm, it kills them. One injection remains effective for up to 15 years, but its effect can be countered at any point by injecting an antidote. RISUG was invented by Professor Sujoy Guha. Today, Professor Guha has some of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies knocking on his door. He developed the technique in this small laboratory in the eastern Indian city of Kharagpur, close to Kolkata.
I first thought about RISUG in 1974. Then I was working on water purification and we were using a similar technique to kill bacteria. That's when I realized that we could perhaps use this method for contraception. We've calculated that up to 1 million men in India will need this injection each year. And there is also a large demand in the United States and in Canada.
An American laboratory has already acquired the rights to market RISUG in the rest of the world. Professor Guha, meanwhile, has his sights set on his next target, creating an artificial heart.
And with that, our time in Pigalle has come to an end. Thanks for joining us here on Frans van Kaart, and we look forward to seeing you next time.